You have grand visions, but can't seem to drag yourself off the couch. Sound familiar? There's a samurai principle that exposes why your ambition is actually feeding your laziness. And once you understand it, everything changes. The feudal warriors of Japan discovered something counterintuitive. The bigger your goals, the less likely you are to start. Not because you lack desire, but because your brain treats ambition like a drug. When you imagine yourself achieving something great, your mind releases the same chemicals as if you had already done it. You get the reward without the work. This is why scrolling through fitness transformations feels productive but never builds muscle. Why planning your business for months feels like progress but leaves you exactly where you started. The samurai called this the trap of empty intention. Your dreams become the obstacle. Every time you picture the finished version of yourself, strong, successful, disciplined, you're training your brain to mistake fantasy for reality. The more vivid your vision, the more satisfied you feel. The more satisfied you feel, the less urgency you have to act. It's a perfect system for staying exactly as you are. Here's what makes it worse. Ambition without action doesn't just keep you stuck, it actively drains you. You carry the weight of what you should be doing, the guilt of not starting, the shame of another wasted day. By evening, you're exhausted from the mental load of unfulfilled promises. So you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Fresh slate, clean beginning. Except tomorrow you wake up with the same pattern, and the cycle deepens. Most productivity advice tries to solve this with motivation. Morning routines, vision boards, accountability partners. But motivation is gasoline. It burns hot and runs out fast. The samurai knew this. They didn't wait for inspiration to train. They didn't check their feelings before drawing their sword. They had something else entirely. They had micro-commitments, not goals, not plans. Commitments so small they seemed almost insulting. A single sword form, one strike practiced correctly, 5 minutes of stillness, the kind of action that feels too insignificant to matter. And that's precisely why it works. Your brain resists big changes because it interprets them as threats. When you announce you're going to transform your life, work out daily, build a business, master a skill, your nervous system sees danger. That's not who we are, it whispers. That's too far from baseline, so it generates resistance. Suddenly you're tired. Suddenly you have other priorities. Suddenly starting feels impossible. But a micro-commitment slips past those defenses. It's too small to trigger resistance. Your brain doesn't mobilize against 5 minutes. It doesn't panic over a single repetition, so you begin. And beginning is where everything shifts. Because once you're in motion, continuation becomes easier than starting. A body in motion stays in motion. You've heard the physics, but you haven't felt the truth of it. One push-up leads to 5. 5 minutes of writing becomes 30. Not because you forced it, but because the initial resistance was the only real barrier. Everything after that is just momentum. The samurai understood that discipline isn't built through willpower. It's built through repetition below the threshold of resistance. Miyamoto Musashi didn't become undefeated by training when he felt motivated. He trained because the action was so integrated into his identity that skipping it felt foreign. But he didn't start there. He started with movements so basic, so brief, that his mind couldn't justify avoiding them. This is where most people fail. They hear about micro-commitments and think it sounds weak, too slow, not ambitious enough. So they aim higher, commit bigger, and collapse harder. They're still trapped in the same pattern, believing that intensity equals progress. But the samurai knew better. They knew that the warrior who practices one strike 10,000 times is more dangerous than the warrior who practices 10,000 strikes once. Your ambition isn't the problem. Your inability to start small is. Every day you wait for the right moment, the right energy, the right circumstances, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who doesn't act. And identity is everything. You can't think your way into a new identity. You can only act your way into it. So here's what changes today. You're going to make one micro-commitment, not tomorrow, not after you finish reading this. Right now, something so small it feels ridiculous, and you're going to protect it like your life depends on it. Because in a way, it does. Not some distant transformation, not the person you'll become in 6 months. The one micro-commitment you'll complete today. Choose something that takes less than 5 minutes, something you can do right where you are. Maybe it's 10 push-ups, maybe it's writing 1 paragraph, maybe it's sitting in silence for 3 minutes without reaching for your phone. The specific action matters less than the threshold. It must be small enough that you cannot justify avoiding it. Write it down, not mentally, physically. The samurai committed to their path, through ritual, through declaration. Your commitment exists in the space between thought and action. Writing bridges that gap. Now here's the part that separates those who change from those who remain stuck. You're going to do this every single day for 30 days, not when you feel like it, not when circumstances align. Every day, without exception, without negotiation. Your mind will try to bargain. It'll say, you're tired today. You can do double tomorrow. It'll say, you've already proven you can do it. You don't need to continue. It'll say this is too small to matter. You should be doing more. These are lies designed to return you to baseline. Recognize them as such and move anyway. The samurai called this principle Shoshin, beginner's mind. They approached each training session as if it were their first, regardless of their mastery. They never assumed competence gave them permission to skip fundamentals. Your micro-commitment is your fundamental. It's the foundation everything else builds upon. Something unexpected happens around day 7. The action becomes automatic. Your body starts moving before your mind can generate resistance. You'll reach for your workout clothes or your notebook without thinking. This is identity shift beginning. You're no longer someone who tries to be disciplined. You're becoming someone who acts. By day 14, something stranger occurs. You'll start wanting to do more, not because you're forcing it, but because momentum creates its own desire. The person who does 10 push-ups daily starts noticing they could do 15. The person who writes 1 paragraph starts filling entire pages. But here's the crucial part. You don't increase the commitment yet. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They feel momentum and immediately amplify intensity. Then they burn out and stop completely. The samurai understood that foundation must be unshakable before you build height. So you maintain your micro-commitment exactly as it is. 30 days, no expansion, just repetition until the action is so deeply woven into who you are that skipping it feels impossible. After 30 days, you'll have something most people never acquire. Proof that you keep promises to yourself. That proof becomes the foundation for everything else. Because once you know you can maintain one commitment without fail, you know you can maintain any commitment. The size was never the point. The consistency was. From there, you add one more micro-commitment. Not 10, not 5. 1. Maybe you maintain 10 daily push-ups. Now you add 5 minutes of reading, same process, 30 days without exception, then another, then another. Within a year, you've built an identity so fundamentally different from where you started that your old patterns become unrecognizable. This is how the samurai built unbreakable discipline, not through grand declarations or intense bursts of effort, but through small actions repeated until they became inseparable from identity. They understood what modern productivity culture has forgotten. Transformation doesn't happen in moments of peak motivation. It happens in the 1,000 unremarkable moments where you act despite feeling nothing. Your life won't change because you read this. It'll change because you choose one action and defend it against every excuse, every justification, every rationalization your mind generates. The gap between wanting and doing closes the moment you make something so small that resistance can't justify stopping it. The samurai didn't wait for battles to prove their strength. They built it in silence, through daily practice no one witnessed. Your micro-commitment is your practice, your consistency is your battlefield, and every day you complete it, you're winning a war most people don't even know they're fighting. So choose now. Make it small, make it specific, make it non-negotiable. Then tomorrow, when your mind offers every reason to skip it, you'll do it anyway. Because that's who you're becoming. Someone who acts without waiting for permission from their feelings. That's the samurai way. That's how you break laziness forever. The warrior who waits for the perfect moment never draws his sword. You have everything you need right now. Not next week when you're more prepared. Not next month when life calms down. The path begins with the smallest step, and that step begins today. Choose your micro-commitment. Protect it fiercely. And watch how quickly the person you've been dreaming about becomes the person staring back at you.